I am pleased to introduce Dr. David C. Wiley as this year's William A. Howe Award recipient.
Well, thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. My mother wrote that introduction. So just for a second here, I want to do something before we get started. I was told I had a few minutes to speak. I've been waiting to do this for 30 years, so just bear with me. Susan Clark said I could talk as long as I wanted, so she didn't actually say that. Okay. As a university faculty member, I'll talk in either 50-minute segments or hour 15-minute segments, so we'll try to get before that. What I want you to do is, we're going to have a little break for a second. I'd like for you to kind of pull your chair back from your table, okay, just back a little bit. I'm going to have an example for you what you do. What we're going to do on the count of 3 is that you're going to jump to your feet, or Larry, just rise to your feet, and you're going to throw your hands over your head and scream hallelujah. I have a volunteer in the back, Brianna, who's going, there you go. At our university, we have voluntold activities where you kind of told the volunteer, so she was our voluntold. So if we don't do it right, we're going to do it again, so don't give me that face. I know you hate this stuff. Let's get this over with. Nobody's going to get hurt, okay? So on the count of 3, you're going to leap to your feet. You're going to rise however you best can, and you're going to scream hallelujah with your hands over your head. Okay, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Hallelujah! Thank you very much. So in a few years from now, when somebody says, hey, what did that Wiley guy talk about? I said, I don't know, but he had us on our feet screaming hallelujah at some point. So at least we got that out of the way. I want to thank each of you for being here today. I know that you're primarily here because of lunch and Lloyd Colby, but I appreciate you your patience with me during my brief remarks. This is a big day for me, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. I've attended ASHA for 27 consecutive years. I'm not nearly as far down the road as Larry is, but I remember thinking in my first conference when they were giving out these awards that, wow, how does somebody get one of those awards? That'll never, ever happen for me. And also remember thinking, man, those people look really old. And so hopefully you're not thinking that, but I'm sure you probably are. And I am completely humbled to be in the company of so many of my professional heroes and mentors. And I also want to take a minute to recognize a few people in the room, and then I'll make my brief remarks and we can move on. I have students, and I have a colleague, Dr. Hausman, and my students from Texas State. If you would rise, and so we can acknowledge that you're here, clap, applaud for them. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Brianna, for volunteering-ish for that first activity. I also have a couple of former students, I think, in the room. Let's see, a couple of students stand up. One, maybe. It's Kelly. Yay! Thank you, Brittany and Kelly there. Thank you. Kelly Wilson is at Texas A&M now. She was at Texas State for a long time. She was my work wife, if you're familiar with that concept. And she left a couple years ago to A&M, so we're having a kind of a separation marriage. But it's amazing how much more she gets done without being in the office next to me and me yelling at her to get things to help me with stuff. So I appreciate her being here and bringing her boss, Samantha, with her as well. Samantha already asleep? Okay, that's good for everybody. Okay. One of my students asked me earlier, goes, hey, so when you win the award, they make you sponsor the lunch? I'm not that Wiley. That's the other bunch. So just before you come up and thank me, I had nothing to do with that. Okay. I have some very special people I want to say thank you to, and it's always a bit risky to put together a list like this because you invariably forget someone. So I apologize in advance for anyone I might have forgotten. I first want to thank Dr. Darrell Lang for nominating me. Darrell and I have been friends for many years, and he went out of his way to make sure that I received the award. So, Darrell, thank you for your support. I appreciate that. Like Linda said earlier, I also want to thank the awards committee for all their hard work on reviewing applications and nominations. I know that these awards are very important, and the work of the committee is very difficult, and I appreciate everything that you have done to honor everyone up here today. And then also, finally, I want to thank and recognize Linda and the board. She's going to talk a little bit later about the future of ASHA, and we've been through some troubled waters. I think the ship has been righted. I think things are going in the right direction, almost exclusively due to Linda's leadership and the people who have been on the board of directors. And so I want to give them a round of applause for everything they've done for us that we're not even aware of. So, other than the people I just mentioned, there's a few mentors that I'm going to talk about power today, and one that deals with power of people. And I have a few mentors I want to mention. Just had a few names to this. Susan Woolley was a longtime executive director of ASHA, and I learned a great deal from her about how to be a good board member and how to be a leader. And Susan was with us for a number of years. Howe Wexler was a CDC bureau chief for years, and he's now the Clinton Foundation's Alliance for Healthier Generation. And when he was a CDC bureau chief for DASH, he actually invited me in one time to come talk to his staff about school health. I never will forget that, because never before had anyone been asked what I thought about any of this, especially somebody at his level. And we've had a number of conversations over the years that have meant a lot to me. So Hal has been very important to me as well. He showed me really a true vision of what school health should be. I also want to acknowledge Jeff and Susan Clark, also known as the Clark twins, for the role modeling, the collective role modeling, what professional service can truly be. I notice they're sitting at different tables, which might explain how they stayed married all these years, but you guys have no idea how much they have given the organization. And Susan, to this day, in the program, she had retired next to her name and she was still presenting. So I watched how they did stuff and tried to emulate them. I also want to acknowledge, again, Larry Olson. Larry's a past president of ASHA, but he's also still involved in our leadership. Most people retire after they've been president, but Larry hasn't done that. He's still involved, even though his enthusiasm for energy for school health is just as powerful as it was during his first ASHA conference during the FDR administration. So I want to, so that last old joke Larry said, okay. And also, last, I want to acknowledge Nancy Hudson. Nancy Hudson, when I was president of ASHA for 3 years, I had to serve a third term. I was given the opportunity to serve a third term, third year when we had someone resign as president-elect. And Nancy was one of my trusted confidants. I could call her almost any time during the day, except when she was keeping her grandkids. I couldn't call her except during nap time. They called it Grancy Camp. So when she had her grandkids, I could only call her between 1 and 3 to talk to her. But I had a lot of things I needed to run by her, and she was always a valuable source of wisdom and inspiration. I want to acknowledge Nancy for all she's done. I also want to acknowledge the rest of you that I failed to mention. You know how much each one of you means to me and how special you are. There is one guy, however, that really got me going in ASHA, Bob Sinovitz. Many in the room know Bob. When I first got involved with ASHA a number of years ago, I went up to him. This was my second conference in 1988, 89, somewhere in there. And I asked him how I might become more involved, because I kept seeing the same people, the same names in leadership, people doing the same stuff over and over. And I thought it was just impossible to crack the leadership structure. So I remember asking him directly, how do I get more involved? Well, he took that as an open invitation to work me like a pack mule over the next 20 years. But I never regretted it. Bob passed away last year. His wife, Linda, usually comes to this conference, but she's not here this year because she's got grandkid duties. And so I wanted to at least mention Bob, and many of you know Bob, and I'll tell you, those of you who don't, his fingerprints are all over this organization to this day and will be forever. So guys like Bob really make a difference in people's lives. So my presentation today is about power, but perhaps not in the way you might think about power in relationships or power in politics. It's about the subtle power that we exert in our daily lives. When you look here at the power of marketing, you can see what happens when the word gets out. And I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this because I made it as big as I could. But this deals with a chart that shows the money we raise, that we donate to, versus the diseases that actually kill us. And one thing I want to point out to you, and by the way, I want to just be real clear about this. I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with any of this fundraising. Every single charity is worthy of support. Every single death from any of these diseases is tragic. but I'm talking about the marketing of ideas and causes. Information on this chart's a little bit inaccurate because in 2014, as an example, the ALS Foundation has raised over $100 million due to their Ice Bucket Challenge. Yet fewer than 7,000 people die from that disease in the U.S. every year. Now, a good friend of mine died with ALS a number of years ago, and I remember watching him. It's a horrible disease. And I know firsthand what that looks like. And I'm not diminishing anyone's death or the suffering of the family. But it doesn't even come close to leading cause of death, yet they're up 3,500% in their fundraising for the year before. Okay? We need this kind of marketing for school health. Okay? For example, for every single dollar that goes to a high school dropout prevention or dropout recovery program, that needs to be redirected to school health programs. Because if you look at this, we need to do a better job of pointing out how virtually every high school dropout in the U.S. is health-related. Whether it be pregnancy, substance abuse, undiagnosed clinical depression, you name it, they're almost all health-related, yet we don't make that connection for school administrators. I was on a school board, as Linda mentioned in my introduction, we'll spend millions on these dropout prevention and recovery programs, yet I can't even get a single bite at having a school health coordinator in our school district. I just don't think most school administrators recognize the role that student health plays in academic achievement. The power of small things. You may be familiar with Malcolm Gladwell, the author. He's one of my favorite authors. And this book is just fascinating. And if you can read the subtitle, How Little Things Make a Big Difference. In his book, Tipping Point, Gladwell provides a number of examples about how small events can create these tipping points, much like epidemiology and disease. He describes such contagious characteristics of behaviors and ideas under the term social epidemics. This term effectively captures the volatility of ideas, behaviors, messages, and products in the world network and how fast they spread, just like disease. Think of everything in terms of social epidemics puts one's perspective about the world into a different spectrum. Social epidemics can be reasonable explanations for every trend. For example, the hippie culture of the 60s, the fame of the Beatles, global warming, personal computers, you name it. So perhaps a tipping point for school health in a particular school is a highly motivated nurse or teacher who does presentations in the community or personally testifies before the school board about why school health is important. Or how about a health teacher who actually teaches health rather than worrying about coaching football? How about that? So I'm looking at our award winners today. All these people create tipping points all the time in their schools. We need to do more of that. One person, one event can tip the scales for school health because little things matter. You guys may not be familiar with this technical term. It's called revenge of the dodgeball victims. Is anybody familiar with the revenge of the dodgeball victims? So here's the story. Here's how this works. You're in junior high. You're not very talented. You're not very athletic. And so you go to PE every day and you get hit in the face with a red rubber ball. So since you get knocked out first because it's an elimination game, you sit up in the bleachers and do your homework and become top 10% of your class. Oh, by the way, you go to law school, get an MBA, whatever, and next thing you know, you're in the legislature or you're on the school board. So then we come to you and want better health education, better PE, and you go, wait, we need more time to hit kids in the face with a red rubber ball? So what has happened, the revenge of the dodgeball victims, is that we're a victim of our own poor programming. In my state, all of our high school health teachers' first name is Coach. And every single one of them. And some of them do a really good job. I'm not trying to diminish their work. But for the most part, they're there to coach football. And so that's part of our problem is that we got really good product, but really bad salespeople. And so how do we do better in those kinds of things to create these tipping points? So here, this is what he talks about, this effectiveness, number of connections, things just hit, and boom, all of a sudden they take off. That's what we have to be talking about in school health. I want to talk about the power of hype. Okay? Now, I'm talking about Ebola. Okay? I'm not here to suggest Ebola is not a serious disease, and I'm mourning the death of every person in the world. It's a horrible, horrible situation. I know this could also turn into a global pandemic. There's no denying that. I'm hearing all kinds of dire information. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is a response by the Western media to Ebola. It's been remarkable. You would think that Ebola is on your doorstep waiting for you to open the front door. Okay? For example, last week my university sent out a mass email about the quote-unquote threat of Ebola on our campus. Okay? there's nothing wrong with that, but I've never received an email from our university yet that talked about drunk driving, sexual abuse, stalking boyfriends, you name it, all the things that actually happen on a college campus. Thomas Frieden, CDC director, has been on the news for weeks saying the same thing over and over again. And somehow or another, we have now risen to the level of an Ebola czar. Okay? So now that we're going to have Ebola czars, what I think we should do is come up with our own czars. I got some things I'm kind of interested in. When we have our own czar for this stuff, childhood obesity prevention, STD prevention, you name it, school administrator training, nurse mandates. This is stuff I want to have a czar for. How about this stuff? Coordinated school health. Let's have a few of these. Okay? Kind of interested in maybe we can prevent a few school shootings, or how about that? Let's have one of those. Okay? So I can pick a lot of things that we need to be doing better, and we just don't have the hype for it. So one of the things I'd suggest is that we have to have a way to make sure our issues become the issues, and we don't just show up every time there's a crisis at school. The media needs to be reminded of this all the time. We'll talk about the power of anecdotes. It is amazing to me how much misinformation is spread by Facebook, at the grocery store, or a bunch of parents sitting around the swimming pool in the summertime. It is stunning. Take the issue of immunizations and autism, anti-vaccination movement. That stuff is still out there. Those of you who work in school health services, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That stuff is still out there. Okay? If I see Jenny McCarthy on TV one more time talking about, okay? So the power of anecdotes. So, you know, as you know, there's zero evidence that supports it. Zero, none whatsoever. Yet we continue to hear people spread the rumor. Personally, I have testified on numerous occasions at the Texas legislature, and I cannot tell you the number of times that random personal stories have trumped research and science. It's unbelievable. We need to start telling stories. We need to start personalizing our issues. Now, I have a number of good friends in the room. I'm looking at them right now who work at CDC. I love the YRBS. Keep doing it. YRBS does not matter to decision makers, I'm telling you. What matters to decision makers is some story. We need to get a little more, need to have better stories, become a little bit smarter about how we present our issues, and develop some street smarts and political awareness about how we're going to get school health issues back on the top. I want to talk about the power of collective good. Okay? Why is it we can get everybody to show up for this, singing from the same hymn book when it comes to sports, but we disagree on the type of sex ed people should have? In fact, some of you are sitting at your table right now checking the scores for your current college team. I see you. Don't worry about it. That's okay. That's all right. Well, there's great power in the collective good because of the strength of people's convictions around a common interest. And we need to harness the power of a collective good to support school health. We need to rally around the health issues that matter most to the general population and serve as good role models as teachers, nurses, school administrators, whatever our role in the school health team is. People want to hear what we have to say. We have to find a way to get 100,000 to show up. So I want to conclude with this idea of the power of one, which is the actual title of my talk. Little things matter, as I mentioned to you before. Let me give you some specific examples of the power of one. 1645, one vote gave Oliver Cromwell control of England. 1649, one vote caused Charles I of England to be executed. 1845, one vote brought Texas into the Union. For those of you who know how crazy we are, that may not have been a really good evening. I'm just telling you, okay? We can out-crazy anybody. Right? 1868, one vote saved Andrew Johnson from being impeached from office. Changed France from a monarchy to a republic in 1875. In 1876, the presidential election went to the House of Representatives. Rutherford B. Hayes won it by one vote. 1923, one vote gave Hitler control of the Nazi Party. 1941, one vote saved the selective service of the draft system 1 week or weeks before Pearl Harbor was bombed. In 1960, you changed one vote in every precinct in Illinois. JFK would not have been president. So don't tell me one person doesn't matter. Don't tell me that. If you remember from 2004, the Bush v. Gore election, and they were doing hanging chads, go tell me about one vote here and there. So the power of one. So this is the issue with leadership. You know, what can we do about the leadership course? I don't know. What do you think? Was there anybody we could ask? Okay. So Later today, you're going to hear Lloyd Colby talk about the future of school health. Linda's going to talk about the future of ASHA. There's a lot of really exciting things about to happen. There's a lot of challenges as well. So as a part of these challenges, there's three types of people. My students, I tell them there's two types of people, those who get it and those who don't, but I've now modified my analysis. There's a few people that make things happen. There are many who watch things happen. And there are most who have no idea what happened. So, over the next few months, you may be asked to respond to an ASHA survey, serve on a committee, run for office, make a donation, or maybe just a host of other professional duties to help ASHA. Do you have to respond? Well, no, of course not. Will someone else take care of it? Probably. They always do. Will anyone notice if you pass this time? Probably not. Are you busy? Yeah, of course, we all are. If you're waiting to not be busy, you'll never get anything done. However, the world is a little bit better place when we all do a little to help. The collective strength of our convictions help children live healthier, more productive lives, and is truly a calling. However, it's often not a calling that we see immediate results from. We have to be confident that we are helping children live better lives, and those truths will be revealed to us in small, incremental steps. So regardless when you call it a career and walk away from your work, what are you going to tell yourself when you lie in bed at night? Did you do everything you could to promote our field, or did you do just enough to make tenure or get that next job? Did you step forward when others wouldn't? Did you take time to mentor a student or younger colleague who was questioning their own career choices? What did you do above the minimum expectation? So when you look at this, the power of one becomes the power of many. We need your one to become our many. And your participation in this conference tells me that you're dedicated to what you're trying to do in our shared mission together. I want to thank you again for your attention and patience. I am truly honored to receive the Howe Award for 2014, and I'm very excited about our chance to continue our work together for years to come. Thank you again.